All right. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the episode here in the series. My name is Dominic. I'm the host of the Android Factory. Last few episodes, we've been covering the Jetpack Compose Basics Code Lab. If you missed it, check out the rest of the playlist to go ahead and catch up. We're on step 8 here, where we're talking about state hoisting. So let's just continue on from the last episode. Literally nothing has changed, and let's just see what they have to say here. In composable functions, state that is read or modified by multiple functions should live in a common ancestor. This process is called state hoisting. Making state hoisting avoids duplicating state and introducing bugs, helps reuse composables, and makes composables substantially easier to test. Ooh, that's very nice. Contrarily, state that does not need to be controlled by the composable's parents should not be hoisted. The source of truth belongs to whoever creates and controls the state. For example, let's create an onboarding screen for our app. Okay, all right. Add the following code to main activity. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and just copy this because they told us to, right? Every good developer knows how to copy and paste, that's for sure. To do, this state should be hoisted. What's the issue here? All right, we just had to set it equal to instead of using the by keyword, and then it looks like their work here is a little bit outdated, but that's totally fine. We can roll with it. Great, everything works fine. Wonderful. Let's bounce back. So we've added a new composable called onboarding screen and a new preview for it. So let's go ahead and rebuild this project. Looks like it's already working here. Let's get some more real estate. Column can be configured to display contents. Show onboarding screen to by keyword instead of the equals. This property delegate that saves you from typing .value every time. When the button is clicked, should show onboarding is set to false. Not reading state anywhere yet. Okay, so hold on. Let's see if we can get that by working, because it seems like that's a better way of doing it. All right, just looks like there were a few imports that we needed to do, and all this code that we pasted over was correct. So apologize, Google. I wasn't trying to shut you down there. But okay, as we can see here, before we move on, we do see this onboarding preview. So we can very easily see, with a width and height of 320, that we have the onboarding screen here, which is just declared, as this column right here, which has some text, a button, and should show onboarding equals false. Bouncing back over here, it says in Compose, you don't hide UI elements. Instead, you simply add them to the composition. So they're not added to the UI tree that Compose generates. Sorry, reading that again, it says you don't hide UI elements. Instead, you simply don't add them to the composition. So they're not added to the UI tree Compose generates. My apologies. Yes, okay. You do this with simple conditional Kotlin logic. For example, to show the onboarding screen or the list of greetings, you would do something like this. Surface, our modifier. If we should show onboarding, where does that come from? Then we do the onboarding screen. Else we do this. So this is a little bit of a paradigm shift because we're kind of removing, in a fully composed app, we're removing fragments more or less completely, right? And instead of fragments being tied to the UI, we basically just have one activity and we just overlay composables on top of one another, or not even on top of one another, but we basically just swap out composables, whichever one that we want. So instead of transitioning fragments, we're basically transitioning composables. And in this case, we have a composable that takes up the whole screen and it looks like one fragment. And in another composable, we will go ahead, we'll go ahead and specify these, UI elements here. And so the largest issue at this point is that we don't have access to this should show onboarding boolean. Instead, right, that is embedded inside of the onboarding screen composable. And that's why I say that there's a to-do here, this should be hoisted. So realistically, we need to do a little bit of rework so that the root, the parent here of whether to show the onboarding screen or these greetings, the parent there needs to have access to the state to know basically which composable to show here. So it looks like we should be doing a little bit of cleanup here, so let me just do this real quick. There's nothing fancy going on here. Okay, so just went through and cleaned up the project a little bit. We see we have a few different previews here. So we have the onboarding preview, we have our greetings preview, and then we have this my app preview, which is basically what the app currently would look like at this moment. Not just, the greetings preview, but actually how it would look on a particular device here. So now moving on to the My App composable, we will then, be able to update basically what we have displayed here. So let's just go ahead and copy this and chat about it in a moment here. So instead of just having the greetings modifier, which is right here, the greetings with the modifier, we'll paste that in we'll see the should show onboarding, and then at this point here, now we can kind of basically determine in the My App Composable if we should or should not be showing the onboarding. If so, we show the onboarding based on that variable. Otherwise, we show our greetings view there, right? And so we have, nothing too new here as far as just the by remember mutable state of a Boolean. We're defaulting it to true, and then we're just updating our or invoking our onboarding screen here to see that one instead. So if we go ahead and update this, I believe the My App preview should update, to the composable for the onboarding screen, because this does default to a state of true. So let's bounce over here, see what they have to say about that. Okay, not much, but what they end up saying here is how do we pass events up and we pass callbacks down. This is a very similar process to recycler views, epoxy, all the work that we've been doing on the channel so far, so this shouldn't feel too different. I'm just wrapping it in Compose here. So we're going to go ahead and add this parameter to our onboarding screen here. So if we go ahead and update that, we will just simply say on continue clicked. Now, one thing that we need to do here, instead of calling should show onboarding, because we don't necessarily care for this state anymore to be here, we want to then basically just invoke our on continue clicked, which when we define it up here, we then have the ability to basically handle the click inside of this lambda right here. So at this point, we can then say should show onboarding equals false. And because we've modified this internal state here, the composable will recompose, this logic will run again, it will be set to false, and instead the greetings will be displayed. Let's go ahead and clean that up, maybe get it all on one line, makes sense. We can go ahead and just update that. Let's see, no value, So we just need a dummy lambda there in our preview to satisfy our compiler. Makes a lot of sense. And nothing here is going to change. We actually need to run it on the emulator to get the actual view here. So we can see our onboarding screen, and then we go ahead and click it. We can go ahead and see that now we are in the greeting screen. So we basically, looks like we're transitioning the user from screen to screen, but really all we're doing is just swapping out our composables here based upon some Boolean, some true false value. So this really is like a little bit of a shift in paradigm shift here, and just basically changes how we think about the UI in comparison to how the user thinks about the UI. Now, I do agree that this is nice and fancy looking, but we do lose a little bit of readability, right? We basically are adding a composable here, onboarding screen, and then we just have lambda should show onboarding equals false. We've kind of lost, some visibility here into what that actually means. And so I kind of like, in this case, updating the on continue click here to be, actually naming that argument so that it's quite clear why this lambda is being invoked. And then, things kind of come together here. So at the same time, we can just go ahead and do a similar concept here for the preview, and then we can just say nothing to do or whatever, because it is just a preview. But kind of the same concept. Naming the arguments becomes more and more important, in my opinion, in Kotlin, and specifically Compose, because there's a lot of just, stuff, erroneous things kind of all over the place. And so we want to be able to very easily describe what certain sections of code are doing here. Okay, so in the next episode here, looks like we're going to be creating a lazy list, specifically a performant one, which will be really good. This is kind of, how we manage recycler views and scrolling lists and scrolling content and whatnot, so I'm definitely excited to explore this a little bit more. Smash that like button if you made it this far. Comment down real fan in the comments to let me know you watched all the way through. Subscribe if you are brand new. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.